What's up, my people? Today we are talking about how to expose a gaslighter. So if that sounds like something you need help with, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and don't miss an episode. There's a little bell next to the subscribe button, and if you click on it, you'll get notified every time I drop a new episode. So let's dive in. Listen, one of the most frustrating things about having a gaslighter at work that you're dealing with is that it can feel like you are the only one who can tell that you're getting gaslit, right? It can feel so isolating. It feels like you're crazy and no one else in the world can see what you're seeing. So to expose a gaslighter means that you finally get everyone on the same page that you are on, which is the page that this person is making you insane, right? So before we dive in and I give you exactly the strategies you need to expose your gaslighter, I just want to acknowledge I am so sorry this is happening to you. Look, I hear from people from all over the world on this channel of how painful it is to be in a work environment or in a relationship outside of work with someone who is persistently gaslighting you, right? Someone who is consistently trying to talk you out of what you know to be true. And I don't think we honor and acknowledge enough just how painful that is. You may feel like your self-esteem has suffered. You may feel like you've lost your sanity. I just want you to know I see you. This is hard. This is really hard, but I'm going to help you figure out how to get through it. Okay, so let's talk about how do we expose a gaslighter? Listen, I want to be crystal clear about something. If you are working with someone, if you are dealing with someone who's a gaslighter and it's inside of a system that is above board, it's a high integrity company, it's a high integrity system, and this gaslighter person is really the exception, not the rule. These techniques and strategies I'm about to share with you will work. They will be exactly what you need. Having said that, if the person you are dealing with, this gaslighter who's trying to make you feel crazy, is part of a systemic problem of bullying, gaslighting, narcissism, old boys club, people that are covering for each other for bad behavior, none of what I'm telling you right now is going to help. The only thing that will help you is getting the hizzle out of that place. I'm sorry if that's not what you wanted to hear, but if you are inside of a system, a gaslighting system, a system that rewards bad behavior and narcissism, there is nothing you can do to change that other than walk out the door. I'm so sorry. I mean, if you think about the most famous cases of corporate level, company-wide gaslighting, I'm thinking of, Lehman Brothers, I'm thinking of Enron, Weinstein Company, Jeffrey Epstein's company. These were organizations predicated, built on lies, deception, and gaslighting. And one little person could not have made change from inside the system. The only way change was going to be made was from the outside. And that's a very different conversation. That's a whistleblowing conversation, which is a different video altogether. So the advice I'm about to give you only works if this one person is a bad apple in a system of good apples. Okay? Okay. One of the most effective tools for exposing a gaslighter is actually very simple. And it's actually very low profile. It sort of flies under the radar, but it really works. And that is to call a timeout, right? If someone's gaslighting you in a meeting or trying to get you to believe something you know isn't true or that you suspect isn't true, or they're trying to claim that something happened that you know didn't happen, or you strongly suspect didn't happen, call a timeout. Timeout. Hey, I need to call a timeout. You're saying X, but I really believe and know that actually Y is what happened. I'm confused. Where is the disconnect? Call a timeout, ask for clarity around the disconnect. What I love about this is gaslighters are counting on, and I want you to underline this with a fine highlighter. Gaslighters are counting on you getting flustered. Because when you get flustered, you lose access to your executive functioning from a cognitive standpoint. When we're flustered, we're like, I don't know, maybe I did say that. Maybe he did say that. Maybe she did say that. When we call a timeout and say, hey, timeout, I just need to clarify. You're saying X, but my suspicion is that my memory was that Y was actually the case. And I want to understand the disconnect. What it does is it halts the hysteria. It halts the crazy making, as Julia Cameron says. It really slows down the action and makes the gaslighter have to explain themselves, right? Gaslighters don't want to explain themselves. They want to say as little as possible to get you to jump to conclusions that work for them. By calling a timeout, you're like, no, we're not jumping to any conclusions. We are not going to walk away from this conversation with me knowing what I know and you knowing what you know and never the twain shall be. Absolutely not. We're going to solve this. Call a timeout and ask for clarity. The second technique I want to offer you is make them really own what they're saying. Like I said, gaslighters get by on innuendo, right? They get by with sort of guiding the conversation without really having to come out and say it, right? I was recently in a conversation with someone that was trying to gaslight me about something, and they said something and I said, whoa, time out. What do you mean by that? And they said, oh, you know what I mean. I said, I don't. I need you to tell me what you mean specifically. They did not like that because they had to own it and they had to stand in it themselves. And the best part is a lot of people gaslight completely unintentionally. In fact, I think the vast majority of gaslighting that happens at work is unintentional. It is the result of lots of years of bad habits, lots of years of unskilled communicating, right? Look, we're all humans. We do the best we can with what we learned growing up. And if some of us grew up in family systems where we were not able to have direct dialogue with each other and to have healthy conflict, that creates grown-ups that don't know how to have healthy conflict. So when you make someone own what they're saying, please explain to me what you're saying, or what I'm hearing you say is X. When you make them own what they're saying, you are actually pulling them out of the zone of manipulation and innuendo and hocus pocus gaslighting into the light of day, into the light of conscious communicating with clarity, right? And they may not like that because they're going to have to own some stuff they probably don't want to own, which is why they're trying to gaslight you and manipulate you. The last two things I want to offer you: keep a journal. Keep a record. You could even just email yourself and keep a little folder in your email. You could label it something that's not easy to recognize in case somebody somehow gets hold of your email. You could call it like helpful tips. I don't know, call it whatever you want. But after a conversation with someone that you believe might be gaslighting you, or someone who is gaslighting you, and you've tried to call them out so that other people can see that they're gaslighting you, you need to keep a record. Because in the ultimate move, after you've tried everything else to expose them, you've called a timeout, you've made them own their stuff in front of the powers that be, eventually you're going to need to go to HR, which is step 4, right? But when you go to HR, you can't just be like, I feel like they're gaslighting me. That doesn't work. Always, sometimes, never statements. They always do this. They sometimes do that. They never do that. Those don't hold weight with human resources. HR needs specifics. They need dates. They need the receipts, honey. Show them your receipts. You need a folder where you can document these conversations. And listen, for some people who get flustered, they don't always remember, right? So even if you confront your gaslighter in front of a group, if they're flustered, they may not remember the conversation. So you may need to follow up with them and remind them of what went down, which means you need to be able to remember what went down. So email yourself. This is when the conversation happened. This is what went down. This is what they said. This is what I said. These were my takeaways. And keep a record, so that when you take the last step, going to human resources, you actually have some real evidence, because evidence is what you need. Without evidence, if all you have are always, sometimes, never statements, you end up looking hysterical. I'm sorry, it just is what it is, right? Now, if you're like, I work in a yoga studio, there's no HR, or I work for a family-run business, there's no HR, there is always someone who's kind of the de facto human manager, right? The person who's in charge of making things run. That's the person you want to talk to. And if that person is the person gaslighting you, all you can do are the first 3 steps. If they don't work, and I want you to hear me when I say this, if you've taken the steps, right, you've called a timeout, you've made them own their stuff, you've kept a journal so that you can discern whether or not you're being gaslit, so that you can have a paper trail of how frequent it is and what the circumstances, what the patterns are. If you do all that stuff to try and expose your gaslighter and nothing changes, time to bounce, time to dust off that resume and get out. Don't you dare stay in an environment that makes you feel crazy, because There is this one precious thing you have in this life, and that is your conscious, clear mind and your self-esteem. Get the heck out of Dodge before they take that away from you. I hope that was helpful. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being here. And if you need more skills for dealing with conflict, like you need a masterclass on just conflict management at work, I've got you. It's called No Enemy. It's my No Enemy conversation framework, and you can find it at noenemy.bronwyncommunications.com. I'll see you next time. Shine on. We need your light.